Salutations, respected viewers. Here I am in the former Bavarian Embassy Chapel. Of course, Bavaria was an independent country until 1871 and had diplomatic relations with the United Kingdom. It was a Catholic country, and for centuries the Catholic Church was illegal in the United Kingdom and England before that, so the Roman Catholic Church had to exist secretly. Anyway, but embassies were an exemption. This was Bavarian sovereign territory. Prior to that, the chapel on this site was Portuguese. But the most fascinating thing about it is the memorial to the Jacobite claimants. When James II was overthrown, you know that William and Mary took over. They had no children. Then Queen Anne, she had no surviving children. And then the Hanoverians were brought in. 58 Catholic claimants were passed over, and the highest Protestant claimant got the throne. But the person who should have got it was from the Bavarian royal house, and this is a memorial to one of those Bavarian claimants. So there you have it. Crown Prince Ruprecht Bavaria was a commander in the First World War at Verdun, and he lived on until 1955. So the person who should be king, the man who would be king, is Francis II of Bavaria. Of course, in November 1918, all the German monarchies were abolished. Below the Kaiser, the German Emperor, there were various kings, margraves, grand dukes, and so forth, and their titles were all swept away. They've got no legal standing in Germany anymore. There were a handful of Jacobites who are loyal to the true house. There you can see the blue and white checkered flag of Bavaria with the royal coat of arms. So it should be him. He's Francis II of the United Kingdom, would be, or Francis IV of France, because of course the English royal family claimed to be the royal family of France as well. So the royal house of Stuart, he's their claimant. He does not himself claim to be king of the United Kingdom or king of any of its former constituent kingdoms such as Scotland, Ireland or England, because remember the Act of Union was only passed in 1707 after the Jacobites had been defeated and driven into exile. Head of the House of Wittelsbach, that's the Bavarian royal dynasty. Tudor, Plantagenet, which is a medieval English and French dynasty. And Cedric, Requiescat in pace, rest in peace, put up by the Royal Stuart Society. So it's a fascinating historical anomaly to find this here. So some people, if they are raising the loyal toast to the king or the queen, would have water on the table to the king over the water, as in the Jacobite claimant. So some people are aware of this. You can even find a website which lists all the Stuart monarchs, the ones who've not actually reigned or been crowned. And I remember about 1910, I think it was the coronation of George V, various placards appeared in London naming the monarchs, the rightful and legitimate monarchs. But I suppose one has to accept that the crown is in the gift of the people. This didn't come out from anywhere, from nowhere. I don't think anyone maintains the divine right of kings these days. That kings were created and deposed by people, by parliaments, by lords and so forth. So that's that. What a fascinating historical phenomenon. It's something very quirky, and people who are a bit contrarian, who are reactionaries, like to indulge the whimsy that the monarchs are really the Stuarts. There we have it. Anyway, the Gordon Riots in 1780, this place was almost torched. That's because the Catholic Relief Bill was before Parliament. Legal discrimination against Catholics was supposed to be removed, but Lord George Gordon, who was the youngest son of the Duke of Gordon, he was an MP for Inverness, and he raised merry hell over this, led these riots against it, and some Catholic chapels were torched. Anyway, the act didn't pass. Lord George Gordon later disappointed many of his supporters by converting to Judaism. He was living in that minuscule Jewish community in Birmingham, undergoing circumcision, even though he was middle-aged. So the Portuguese embassy used to rebut to this. That's enough from the former Portuguese and Bavarian chapel in London.